Your name's not down, you're not coming in. Not tonight, not tonight.
We are Security Nation.
Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
Our expertise allows everyone to have a great time,
Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
so they can feel safe and enjoy the occasion to the max.
Not tonight, you're not on the list.
So here we are, and we are back. It's been a long time since we last did our latest podcast, but tonight we are back with our new show, and tonight we are talking about the difficulties of festivals and events, why they're dropping by the wayside. And I've got two very special guests with me tonight. I have Libby, who is one of the ladies who organises the lighting show. Say hello, Libby.
Hello.
And I have Ben from Poole, who runs Poole Harbour Festival, Upton Food Festival, and a few others. So, we're going to have a chat tonight. We're going to see what we can talk about and find out the difficulties of running a festival and event, really, and the challenges that you guys face, and the reason over 400 festivals this year have dropped, over the last couple of years have dropped. And, let's get on with it. So, Libby, let me ask you. I mean, you run lighting trails, you run events at different places, different Hillier Gardens, for example, Christmas lights and stuff. Tell us about your event firstly. I mean, tell me what you see and how it works.
It's a very magical family event, and we focus on making memories for people to come at one of the most festive times of the year, one of the most memorable times of the year for people. We have 75,000 people that come through the doors.
75,000 people.
Yeah.
So
over a month.
What comes with 75,000 people is a lot of toilet usage, a lot of wear and tear, a lot of
a lot of happiness.
Yeah.
And challenges that we face. You know, just the logistics of organising an event in any location, because you are creating something that is not
especially around Christmas.
there.
You got the weather as well, I guess.
Yeah.
You know.
The weather is one of our biggest challenges, but then obviously the rising costs.
Yeah, I can imagine that's not easy for anybody. Ben, tell me about you, Ben. Poole Harbour, Upton Food Festival, and many other festivals that you've done.
Yes, so over the years we've done quite a few different family music festivals, different food festivals, and essentially we put on good weekends for people, lots of fun, music.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, when it's good, it's good. But
when it's good, it's good. Yeah.
When it's bad, it's proper bad. You know? It's. We do regularly think, why on earth do we do it? But it is a passion as well as a business. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that being difficult, especially in your case. You book some large acts.
Yeah, the calibre of the acts has increased quite a lot over the last few years, which means the cost to have, also the level of productions. So not only have the cost.
Can I be really cheeky? What's the biggest act you don't have to tell me a figure?
Oh well, yeah. Well, obviously this year we've got UB40 for Poole Harbour. Razor Light last year, so we're
the
looking,
UB40.
Yeah, so we're sort of taking a step up each year. It took a while after COVID to kind of get back on our feet because sort of paying off COVID debt, but now we've sort of we've got a bit more free range to book bigger acts and increase the level of production. So not only have we chosen to book bigger acts and spend more money on production, those costs have actually risen a huge amount in the last few years.
Interestingly, you just said, or you mentioned COVID.
Yeah.
Do you think we've recovered from COVID?
The events industry has, some things are absolutely thriving, but then some things never got quite back on their feet. The cost of living crisis and increased costs when people's spend have gone down meant that they've sort of they've sort of ticked over, and then after a couple of years of struggling, they realise they can't do it anymore. And then you've got other festivals which have been run by trusts or volunteers for many, many years. So, like Tarasay, is it, festival, 70 years been running. They've finally sort of conceded that they can't make it work, and because when you've got a trust or a group of people who puts the money in when they lose money, you know, and you know, Cambridge Folk Festival has just cancelled another one where, you know, theoretically on paper it should make money, but if the revenue's down, then the council can't afford to chip in if they lose money.
Interestingly, you just said then, and Libby, it's interesting. You just said on paper, it looks like it should make money, and you know, it's not always the case. If somebody says it makes money on paper, then there's other stuff which could, in my eyes, can be hidden costs, unexpected costs, and all the rest of it. And whilst it looks good on paper, it doesn't always add up when it comes to the actual final bill. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, so even if you're really organised, you've got the best lineup, the best marketing, and then you have really bad weather over one weekend, then you know, that can really shoot you in the foot, and it also can mean that you struggle with your cash flow for the following year to then put on acts. And I know that several events in Dorset have failed because their reserves were wiped out by 1 year of bad weather, followed by another year of bad ticket sales, and that's it, game over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And it's not just the ticket sales that's the loss of revenue, it's the cost that you've already spent on the marketing you don't get back, and then the administration of actually managing the refunds. So it's
I suppose,
all,
yeah,
it's
somebody's got
all
to.
an extra cost, and
Yeah.
someone's got to do it. It's time consuming, it's costly. It's not just that loss of revenue for that ticket.
Talking of losses, you had a loss this year, didn't you? You were hit at the start of the event. Am I right?
Yes.
Can I say that? Is
Yeah,
that,
yeah. We
So-
we were only 4 or 5 days in. We'd only just laid all the cables to supply all the lighting and the sound, and then we had a storm. And for anyone that doesn't know, apparently storms are the perfect robbing weather because they know that everybody's locked inside, they're not out. When you're in a place like ours, where you've got lots of trees, you're not even allowed in the landscape because there's potential loss of life. So it's really difficult for anyone to be on site anyway. So they've actually got the perfect opportunity to steal, and that's what they did. They chose that opportunity to steal
Fucking-
£80,000 worth of cables.
80,000 quid.
And that's not the only cost, because obviously, you know, people do have insurance, and insurers will pay for the loss of some of it, but they don't pay necessarily for the cost that it costs you to then, all the hassle you've got to relay, you've got to find and source all those cables again at a higher cost. You've got to find the people to lay them again. That's all costly.
Yeah.
And then you probably need all the equipment to then do it. So we had to then rehire all our plant again for extra time. That's all costly, because we had to do the work twice.
That's crazy.
And our suppliers are amazing. They were amazing, but they worked extra hours above and beyond. You know, some of them were working through the night.
That's mad. And it sounds like not a bad night work for the fucking scumbags who took it, but you know, turn them in scrap value. That's a few hundred quid, whatever they got for it. But the knock-on effect is just unreal.
Yeah. Well, copper's worth a lot of money. Apparently, it's worth about 7,000 a ton. So for them, they just burn it all, take it to the scrap yard, and somebody pays them. But you know, there is a problem there with the people that are taking that scrap.
Yeah, then surely they should be accountable as well for the scrap dealers that are actually paying the money.
well, they've changed the law a few years ago where you have to, they can only pay into a bank account now, so either by backs or cheque. They're not allowed to pay out cash, so that's kind of has helped a little bit in the you know.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't help in this one, did it?
No, and the problem is, you know, it's not just one person that's coming. These things are really heavy. Those kind of cables are very heavy, so you need a gang of people to do that. And, you know, and then they use the equipment to do it, and they destroy it and everything else that, you know, that goes along with it.
That is shit. I mean, you're not the only person. You're not going to be the last either.
No.
We supply security to a lot of solar sites, and we see a lot of cable theft normally during the construction of the site.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And you know, there's been many times where our guards are sort of walking at 3 a.m, walking into a field and confronted by people,
Gangs.
trying to strip cable and stuff, and
Yeah.
all we can do is phone the police and try and scare them away and do the best we can in that respect. But I will say, of late, this year specifically, the people that are stealing have got bigger balls, and they're almost not hiding now. They're coming out and saying,
Blatant.
"We're here to steal this cable. You're not paid enough to get an
Stop
hide in,
us.
so let us
Yeah.
steal it. We're going to be off, and we won't do fuck all.
Yeah.
If you try and stop us, you're going to get a..." And, thankfully, a couple of our guys have gone, "Well, you're not doing that," and we're calling the police.
Yeah. If the
And
police don't turn up,
you
then,
know-
yeah,
And then they're in
you're on
trouble.
your own.
Then they're on
But
their
they're-
own, and
they're-
that's a worry, isn't
yeah,
it?
they're ballsy enough to sort of say, "We're here to steal this." And we had a guy this year confronted with an axe,
Yeah.
and fair play to him, he stood his ground, but and just called the police and said, "There's a transit here." And then when the transit drove away, the police followed them. I don't know if we caught them. I think they may have done, actually. But the attacks are certainly getting more and more as they go. But anyway, just getting back onto the side of it. So let's be honest. How much do you rely on pre-ticket sales?
Well, 100%. We not just obviously that's part of cash flow, but we market the tickets with early birds and other discounts so that people buy in advance. Just because how it used to be, where like 40-50% people paid on the gate. If we had bad weather, we can't afford to lose those because they wouldn't come. So we need to get them to buy early. So that we've got that revenue, so we know
You
they're
need some
coming.
capital to start putting the infrastructure in.
Not necessarily the capital, but they're already committed to coming, so we know they're going to come. We know we're going to spend money on site. We know we're going to have an event. If we left it, so it was so.
Have you noticed any change in that, in the way people? Are you noticing? I guess what I'm saying is, are you noticing people buying tickets later?
So post-COVID, yes, people were leaving it till the last minute, like literally, like in the last 3 days, 20-25% of tickets the last 3 days. That's really hard for you to plan in terms of, staff, toilets, medics, that sort of thing. But since then, with us having a bigger lineup, I think, and a better reputation, that people are sort of.
They want
but
to guarantee they're going to get in.
Yeah, they're prepared to buy early and take advantage of the cheaper tickets. But then there's also people who sort of, they can't afford to buy earlier, so they do leave it a bit last minute because, they have to wait for that last payday before they can come, which is quite nerve-wracking for us because, you often you don't actually hit the sort of break-even point until until you're halfway through the event. So it's very scary.
That's a fine line. That is genuinely like,
I don't think people realise.
See, that's that's part of the reason we did this show. This is a part of the reason we can talk about this now and say, let's not be naive. People that think that you guys throw 100 grand at an event and come back with $1 million.
No, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't happen.
Hey, listen, if it was that easy, everyone would do it.
You are be off your conker if you think that. And if it was that easy, I would be doing it.
Yeah.
It's more like throw
I am-
$1 million at an event and lose 100 grand. That's more like the reality. So yeah.
But you know what, Ben? You've just sort of hit it on the head. And let's be really honest. All issues are down to cost. People go, "Oh, but they've sold 15,000 tickets at 50 quid," and I'm like, okay, but do you know how much money UB40 cost? Do you know how much money these acts cost? Do you know how much money the security costs? I know how much money the
Do
security
you know
costs.
how much money it costs to feed the security?
There you go. See, the cost of feeding our
But
security.
before we've even started, 20% has gone back to the government already in VAT.
Yeah.
So 20% is gone. So
And
For
that's,
sure.
That's another thing. Like the annoying thing is you can still owe VAT when you've lost money. That is a real kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, because if you've took some money, you spent it all, but you didn't spend it all on VAT goods, so you therefore have to pay that difference.
Yeah.
I wonder just how many
That's
people.
a really interesting point, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder just how many people realise that.
Yeah, so simple maths of it are, if you take £100 and you spend £120, but you spent 60 quid of it on something that was vatable, so you've lost 20. You took 100 quid. Your costs were 120 quid. You've lost £20, but you only spent 50 pounds on vatable stuff. You can only claim the VAT back on that 50 quid. You then got to pay VAT on that other 50 quid.
Yeah.
Even though you've lost money, so it's that obviously that affects your cash flow. You've lost money and you still got to pay VAT. That's not good.
Yeah.
So I think it should be higher taxes on profit and less sort of turnover, or less tax on turnover.
I wrote to my MPs about it, 2 of them actually, and that was during the Conservative government, and they were very unsympathetic and just said basically that's it, it's 20%. We don't really care about the hospitality business. You shouldn't be treated any different. But because they don't understand, I think
That's so shit from the government, and even more so now. I mean, I will say it. Fucking Keir Starmer, absolute fucking lemon. He's put the NI cost up. All of our staff are employed.
yeah.
I have well over 100 staff, and each one of them is going to cost me an average of £600 a year more. Where's that 70 grand coming from? Because
It's coming from us, isn't it?
Yeah.
well,
we're paying for it and from the customers. But
I do say this begrudgingly, but yes,
Yeah.
we all pass on costs, and
Yeah.
and the fact is, I charge you a rate, and then we pass on costs, so our rate goes up to afford it, so that I, as a security company, can operate. But the realisation is, I totally understand where you guys
Yeah.
come from when you say, "Fuck me, how's your bill this much money?" And I'm like, because we have to pay this, we have to pay
Yeah.
pension,
Yeah.
holiday, sick
Yeah.
pay, pension, and now the NI's gone up because he's fucking kicked me in the ass some more. And all I can do is go, in order for me to survive as a business, we pass those costs on, and then you turn around, and it's not because I'm being greedy. It's a fact of
But
life.
You've got an increase.
Then you might lose out on contracts because someone's undercut you.
For sure, somebody
And the
who's
only reason that you've lost that contract was because they put the NI up, the employer's NI up. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Oh, listen, I can tell you now, I know all the companies that are not paying holiday, not paying pension, not paying all of their due dues. We're an ACS approved company, we get audited all the time. Christmas we had an audit, they came to your
They
site,
did, yeah.
And I walked around with them, and as much as we think, we've got it right, and we like to think that everything's right, you're always thinking, have we got it right? Is there anything we've missed? And thankfully, fingers crossed, touch wood, we've always met the standards and superseded them. But we try to do it right. More importantly for me, I try to be fair with the guys. We try to pay them the most we can pay them without bankrupting ourselves. But as a company, we try not to be greedy, and we try to be fair with you guys so that you can operate. It'd be the easiest thing in the world for me to go, right, it's £25 an hour and take it or leave it. And I know for a fact you're going to go, well, A, I can't afford it, and B, we need to be realistic. What is the going rate and what's what? And for us, that's a difficulty for all ACS-approved companies. And even when I spoke to the ACS and I've spoken to the SIA about it, they can't even give me a good reason. I mean, the only reason they gave me was, it gives us a stick to beat you up with. And I thought, that's not a good reason for me to do it, is it? But I can absolutely categorically tell you, they agree. So we're at a disadvantage because we legally comply with the employment laws, and we try and do it the right way, which in turn pushes the price up for you, which means you then look to put the price on to the ticket sales, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're trying to pay the sort of living wage, is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
we have a lot of employees in London, and we have the living wage and what they call the real living wage.
Yeah.
And that's even more. So whilst there is a minimum wage, the London living wage is slightly higher,
Yeah.
and then you've got the real living wage, which is even higher. Because what it actually says is that the living wage is not realistic, because you can't live in London on 14 quid an hour or whatever it might be at the time. And that's a massive thing. I mean, so these guys, don't matter who puts on a festival, it's a cost. Let's be
Well,
honest.
people are costly, and you can't run an event without people.
Yeah.
So it's not just security; it's all the stewards that you need to look
Anyone,
after,
all the staff
ticketing.
from the contractors. So every
Yeah.
every contractor that comes to you, from toilets to first aid, medical, you know, your cleaners,
Yeah.
whatever. They all those bills will be more money because
because
they're
of
having
the,
Well, let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about Poole Harbour. You've got Poole Harbour. It's a fantastic event. I did it for the first time last year. I thought we did a really good job. We learned from what you were expecting. We tried to visualise what we see from you, and we go, okay, we sort of understand this festival. We try to deliver that. And then I look at it and go, right, holy shit, fencing, staging, lighting and sound. That's got to be mega. The sound, the main stage itself, and you have a big ass stage, so all that costs. Then you've got me, the security. We're a big chunk of that as well. Then I go, right, he's got a lineup of artists, which, to be fair, I think your festival this year will be the best festival on the South Coast by a mile. I think that the acts that you put on are better than most, and I'm fortunate enough that I'm the head of security for UK Live, Kilimanjaro, the 80s festivals. I am head of security at Garage Nation, Kistery. We are festival. All these events we do are fantastic, but on the South Coast, I think your event supersedes all of them. And I do think that, but I think that also you push slightly harder with your production. I think what you do, what you put in the big tops, all the staging, the acts, all the rest of it. But when I look at your lineup, excuse me, that's not cheap.
No, I mean it's
And I sort of shudder to think what sort of checks you're writing.
well, the cost has basically gone from a 2-bed flat 5 years ago to pretty much a mansion nowadays for the cost of 1 year. That's all I'm going to
Yeah,
say.
Sandbank's
Those
got
sort
a
of
few
figures.
mansions around there.
Yeah, I mean you're not going to buy a mansion that you could get a very, very nice house of what it costs to put on now. So it's
that's I never thought of it like that.
so
To
That's
give it
so
some
true.
perspective, and tell me if I might be a million miles out here, but if I said to you, for example, 5 years ago,
yep.
your event cost 500 grand to put on.
Yep.
Let's just say 500 grand. In comparison, what would that be today?
So, I mean, you've gone from in 5 years we've 5 years ago was 10%. So you're literally looking from going from 100 grand to $1 million in 5 years.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but and a lot of that is, I mean, when you look at
So it's more than doubled.
it's literally, in 5 years we've 10 times the cost. And so then when you get customers moaning why
10 times the cost.
Yeah, but that's because
Fuck.
but we've got much bigger acts,
Yeah.
but the costs have gone up.
Yeah, and also because these big acts, they've got bills to pay, they've got staff to pay, they don't run
Yeah,
alone.
they're
They don't realize, people
then
don't
you've got-
realise all the entourage and
then you've got the hospitality, you've
Yeah.
got the riders, you've got the tech riders, all the different kit they need for
Yeah.
them to perform, and then even just things like what's really annoying is that the stuff that cost the most is the stuff that customers don't really see or care about, and
traffic management.
your traffic management, road closures,
Now we're
medical
talking.
security.
And now we're
Yeah.
talking about that like this, and you sort of think to yourself, who notices traffic management? They're an essential part of your event. I know, I
Yeah.
know
So-
because I'm security. I see it, but
If you want a little snapshot of how the sort of economy is with people and the spending, the interest rates, meaning they haven't got much money because their mortgages have gone up so much, is that we're getting people questioning why at the moment, if you want to buy a Sunday ticket to see UB40, Happy Monday, Venga Boys, as well as another probably 30 acts across that day. Still 30 quid a ticket, and they're complaining that the prices have gone
See, again,
That's very good value.
I might be out of line in
£30.
saying this. I don't see 30 quid
No,
being
it
expensive
would
in
cost
any
you
way.
60 quid to see UB40 on their own at a venue.
Yeah.
You know? So we're still incredible good value, especially compared to things like Camp Festival, where they're about 4 times the price. You know.
Yeah. Well,
It's
there you go,
like-
guys. You
yeah.
can go there for £30+ and come and see us on a Sunday, UB40 and many
Yeah, I
others.
mean, even on the Saturday, we've got Feeder and Hoosiers and.
I've got a little story about
We
the
Are
Venga
Scientists.
Boys.
I love them.
The Venga
I'm
Boys.
definitely coming now.
Well, there you go. I can categorically tell you, the Venga Boys came and played at what was Icon and Diva back in, I'm going to say 1998, 99. And they were due to come out on stage when they were at their sort of peak. And I remember the manager saying to me, Marcel, do you want to go down the dressing room and tell them, come on, ready to go? And I went down the dressing room, knocked on the door, and the two guys they had a full-on fist fight in the dressing room with each other. They had blood everywhere. The two girls were like trying to separate them. So I've walked in and they've sort of stopped, but they have knocked 10 bales of shit out of each other. Refused to play, walked out the building. I've come in and sort of said to our manager Jed at the time, like, they're not playing. And he said to me, what do you mean? I said, they've just had a... And I think the Venga Boys didn't play then for at least, I'm going to say 8, 9, maybe 10 years, I don't know.
Wow.
But at the time, I walked in and the two girls were like dishevelled, hair everywhere, where they were like trying to pull them apart. And these two had properly gone at it. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, probably not going to play tonight. But
Rock and roll.
yeah, you got these acts and that's what they do. But yeah, I can tell you that's what happened with them. But yeah, I mean, from my point of view, cost is a massive. Let's be honest, it is the be all and end all of everyone's problems, isn't it? In life in general.
Yeah, well, bearing in mind that we started with a blank field or a blank site the week before, anything you're putting in there costs money, and any issue can be solved with money. And so, for instance, if you said, you had a particular sort of music that had a reputation for trouble, then you might double your security. That's money. If you said you think, well, it's a bit late in the year, it might rain, let's get a big top tent or have more cover. Money. Things like keeping the place clean, or we want it to be really spotless. Well, you need to spend more money on your litter pickers and your bins and
Yeah.
all these things. So literally,
Everything costs money.
yeah, and so I think that one of the reasons we took a big step up in the last few years is that we've sort of reinvested each year and aimed higher with the production and the bands and stuff, which is obviously a bigger risk to us. You see, so it's that. Last year was the first year that Paul Ards ever lost money, which was, I think it's a sign of the times where costs have just escalated so much that it was unaffordable. But what we've done this year is we've sort of tweaked a few things. We've looking to increase the capacity so we can sell more tickets, and hopefully that will cover our costs. But I think people generally see events as a way of printing cash when.
Oh God, no!
You can make a few quid, but a lot of the time you're just fighting against the odds.
And things happen that you just don't know about. You can be you need to
Unexpected
be
costs.
really organised to run an event, and most people are. But then things happen that if you're not organised, you're going to be in big trouble, aren't you?
Yeah. So, for instance, when you had your cable stolen, if that was a weekend festival, that would have been the festival wrote off because you wouldn't be able to place it in time. Whereas you were there for a month, you've had to pay more. It was very stressful. You probably lost some trading, but you were able to, at least trade for some.
Years ago, going back to an event that we did, and I remember it was more of a car/stroke food event, and for whatever reason they put the mixing desk and everything out front in Fronter's house, and they never put the gazebo up overnight, and it pissed with rain, and this massive mixing desk with a million knobs on it.
40 grand or something, yeah.
Completely. and nothing to do with us, because we had only arrived on that day, and they literally, at the time, I think they had to hire in or get one from Beg, Steal and Borrow for one, and then they had to replace the one that they had waterlogged. It was just ridiculous, but it near enough stopped the event, because they were like, without this, there's no sound, there's no, front of house, and I know over the years, and I've been doing it, just the Let's Rock shows alone. Last year, I did my 100th show last year, and that they took me up on stage and in front of sort of 15,000 people and said, and it was a privilege in some respects for me that I've done 100 shows. And a lot of the people of Let's Rock, the crowds, I saw them everywhere. Leeds, Sunderland. There were people that had tickets no matter where they went around the country.
Follow them around.
And whenever they knew I was the head of security, they always said hello. I'd always give them my time and have the chance to have a chat with them. And to be fair, really sort of grew fond of the fans of Let's Rock. So I saw it as a privilege in that respect that we had done 100 shows. And this year, and I will say this because people have chased me about this. There's only a couple of shows going this year, so there is going to be Shrewsbury and Exeter as normal. But I'm not going to dangle the carrot too much, but I can tell you that Kilimanjaro are looking to relight next year. They want to put at least 10 shows on. But we need to obviously make those shows financially viable, which I think is the underlying for all Let's Rocks, for all shows really. They need to be financially viable, as do your shows, as does anybody else.
I mean, you've just highlighted that those shows aren't taking place this year because they're not viable. So that's because simple fact is their predicted revenue isn't going to cover their costs.
Yeah.
And so if you look at how an event that we put on feeds hundreds of businesses and hundreds of staff, means that that money is going back into the...
It is going into the community, the local town,
into the economy,
and into the
yeah,
economy.
so it almost seems daft to for things like VAT and stuff to prevent you putting events on, which actually drives the economy.
Well, that's you're absolutely right, and I think you take your event, Poole Harbour, all the hotels, all the campsites. They're full. I know that. I've seen that, and yours is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You draw in 75,000 plus people over a month, coming to Romsey, to Hillier Gardens. Now, 75 people don't go through Hillier Gardens in a week normally. Come to your week. It's I don't know the figures, but what I'm saying is they're uber busy because of you and the local hoteliers, the local restaurants. People have something to eat before they come, and all the rest of it. So when a council is short-sighted, and this is an argument I have, I'm not going to point the blame at Southampton City Council because I'm sure they're all the same, but sometimes across the sites and the revenue, certainly like London, I know that Garage Nation couldn't get a site for anywhere near what they would normally pay, whether it be 20, 30, 40 grand, and all of a sudden the councils were trying to be greedy, and I'm not saying Southampton because there are other councils out there that are probably far worse, but if the councils did a little bit of reasoning and said, look, it's probably they bring in so much revenue in terms of the economy, we can accept taking it down 10 grand. That gives you a fighting chance, if that makes sense, and it gives the promoter a fighting chance to look at the costs and say, okay, they've taken a hit of 10 grand, but the economy still thrives on what you bring in. And sometimes I think that's lost in translation, certainly because all they want to do is get their bit. They don't care about what anyone else gets. And as a result, if you turn around and say no, I've seen that with a police stipulation where I've seen police say to an event, and I've seen it where they've said, you've got to have X amount of cereals, you've got to have this amount of police, that's our bill. And the event's gone, well, okay, we may as well stop because we can't afford that bill and that puts us unviable.
Yeah.
And the police have said, you're not running it unless you do that. And I've sat there and just looked, I think something in Ringwood a few years back. Not, I think it was the fireworks or whatever it was that they did in Ringwood Festival. I don't know what it was. The police gave them the bill, and they said, we can't afford that bill, and it puts us in the red by quite a bit. And the police said, well, you're not running it unless we get that. And they said, fine, we're not running it. The economy lost £1 million
Yeah.
Crazy.
because they wanted their 20 grand.
Crazy.
And I think sometimes that's sort of lost in translation, and I don't think that.
But does seem daft when you've got like local councils and bids and stuff trying to put events on to help the economy when we're doing that for them without them paying a
Yeah.
penny, and yet they're just putting hurdles up.
But do you think that they actually sit around a table, and do you think they listen to your concerns and our concerns and go, you know what, this is a difficult time. Nobody's having a great time of it out there. Everyone's struggling with living costs and everything else. And whilst you're sat there saying it's okay to dictate whether they can do this event or do that event, the knock-on effect for everybody else is that they could potentially lose money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they consider us as a they care about us as a business sometimes. I mean, when we've been involved in events that were put out to tender because they're meant to drive tourism, when they've been talking about the concerns of local businesses, whether they the event will positively or negatively impact them, they were always referred to as local businesses, and I was like, hello, we're a local business. Do we not count? You
Yeah.
know? And no was the answer. We didn't, and we made the BBC News for cancelling Poole Seafood Festival. We've made BBC News twice. Once for Poole Harbour for selling stuff, and once for cancelling Poole Seafood Festival, which is really, you shouldn't. It shouldn't sort of raise that much attention when we do something like we have to cancel an event that we'd run for a couple of years because of the council's incompetence in liaising with local businesses.
Yeah. Do you think it would help to get the council to actually come and say, look, these are the things you have to understand about certain events?
We've got much better in communicating with them. You know, we've sort of having to.
And this is not a dig at the council. This is just,
No, I mean they're always don't have enough sort of manpower to give everything as much attention as they like. And I'm talking about something that happened a couple of years ago, but it's just an example of when we are trying to put on events which are going to help the local economy and drive tourism. You know, Poole Harbour's just won the best tourism business at the Destination Management Awards in
Nice.
Poole and Bournemouth. So we're obviously doing some stuff, but it does seem daft that our business is by nature does that, but yet we often get overlooked for out of town companies to put events on.
I have a real issue with that. So if you try and do an event or you try and do a lot of stuff in Brighton Council will say, unless you live within a certain area, their ethos is to use local suppliers. And I agree with that. And yet there are Southampton will use any supplier, don't matter if you're from Manchester, Liverpool, whatever. And yet, they're not interested in supporting local. They will just go with the lowest price or whoever can,
I've seen that both sides of that. So we use predominantly local suppliers. I mean, you're Southampton. It's not exactly far away for that, but we use local suppliers wherever we can. So in terms of production and staff and all the plant hire companies we use, all the staging stuff like that.
I think there's always need for other people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I think if possible, you look closer to home first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
As long as they can deliver.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
that's the same across the board. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why some councils are sort of trying to promote local companies is that if you've got a national tour, like you talked about Lex Rock or something,
Yeah.
they might take the same contractors with
With
them.
them.
Well, that's
all
what
around
happens
the
with Lex
country,
Rock.
and so therefore, then some of the local contractors might get overlooked because. But if you've got some 10 jobs in a row, why wouldn't you want the same company?
Well,
doing
that's
alternative,
exactly that is exactly us. I mean, we travel with Let's Rock. We do the whole thing, but we also know exactly how it runs. We know exactly. I could set up Let's Rock with my eyes shut because I know exactly what the promoter wants. And there are times when I look and he might surprise me with an extra bar, and I might go, well, that one on the plan or this. But other than that, I can go to any Let's Rock, and I've, like I said, done 100. I think I finished on 102 shows last year. After 100 shows, I should know where we're at. And yes, but I also like to use. I mean, certainly up north, I've got the Geordie lads that work for me. Brilliant bunch of guys. They're like my own guys. I take them everywhere with me, and they work the whole summer. They travel with me. The guys from Leeds, the same thing. And we sort of try to mimic that across the country, but sometimes it can be a little bit unfair with the local guys, I guess, I suppose. But moving on, what do you think? What's the future look like for events, festivals? Tell me what you think going forward. Do you think it's having a resurgence, should I say? Is it looking promising?
I think people want to go to events. People now want to have an experience. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. People want something to look forward to,
Yeah.
and they'll take advantage of it.
Yeah,
but they're just
and they'll remember it forever, way more than they will going and buying a shirt in a suit in a shop. Do you know what I mean?
I think they're just more selective where they spend their money.
Yeah.
They're also more picky. Social media and TripAdvisor is quite cruel. You know, you can you can,
TripAdvisor.
you can look at where you're going in advance and read the reviews. That people are more selective. They won't take a gamble so much, which that does mean that new events kind of have it harder because they've got no sort of track record.
TripAdvisor annoys me a little bit. We've got good reviews, and then one day we had a really bad review on TripAdvisor, and I couldn't really work it out. And I thought that, and then as I proceeded to read, it wasn't even our event. We didn't do the
I would
security,
that, yeah.
and you know,
Yeah,
I
and
couldn't
also
remove
competitors
it because
write
it was,
reviews about people.
Yeah.
About
and I was like, that's not my security company.
No.
There is a security company up north that's other way round, so we're Security Nation, they Nation Security. And we got confused, and I was like, but we didn't do download.
Yeah.
And I sat there going, and sure enough, I couldn't move the comment. Well, it took about a year to get it removed in the end. But it was, it's one of them things. But festivals, events.
Well, the future, go back to the future, is to talk on the festival side rather than just events in general, is that unfortunately the sort of economies of scale where the bigger companies can control the acts more, and you know they've got their own ticketing platforms. That means that we're finding it harder to sort of compete for dates for bands. They're putting up big exclusion zones of where we can't.
If
Yeah.
you don't mind me saying so, people like yourself, private festivals, and you are the man that runs that festival. So it's your balls on the line. Let's be honest. You're putting your balls on the line every time you do it.
I mean, I've been very lucky that I've had some sort of financial help over the last couple of years to get through this because of the situations we've
But
been
make no
in.
mistake,
Yeah.
it's still your balls on the line, Ben.
And yeah. I mean, I mean, basically, any money that I've been lent, I've had to repay.
Yeah. Nobody's saying
it's not
it's
like
easy.
it's a gift. But,
No.
you know, without that, we wouldn't have survived.
I mean, I look at some of the events that are happening this year at Southampton. I know the guys that are putting them on, and I also know that, you know, it's their money, it's their balls on the line, and it's them, the one that are in the firing line if they get it wrong. And what I think sometimes is easy to hide behind is if you are a big corporate organisation, so like Live Nation, those sort of people, Reading Festival, Leeds Festival, all of these huge, even Glastonbury to a point, these are big festivals that have a very dominant position when it comes to the big acts and who and when they play. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that they also probably pay the highest bill for the biggest stage for the biggest acts. And then you come along and go, I'm trying to book these acts, and they might be holding out for the positions at Glastonbury, Download, Reading, Leeds,
Yeah,
the big
yeah.
festivals, shall we say?
Yeah, so often we are overlooked and waiting for a bigger offer. You know, I spent the last 10 years sending nice introductory emails to agents going, "Hi, so and so, we're interested in so and so for this festival. Here's some nice pics of the event. You know, we get X amount of thousand people. If we get a reply, it's often 3 words, which is make an offer." I'm like, couldn't you really change it to 7 words? Say, "Hi Ben, please make an offer."
Yeah.
You know, say please.
How rude.
Yeah, and we're talking spending 50 grand with them. You know, so
And they're gonna get
Exactly.
Oh,
So it's
so
not a small
rude.
change, is it?
No,
So rude.
I wish
yeah,
somebody
so
spent 50 grand on
remember
me.
that we're the customer and they're
Yeah,
the thing. You know,
you're a
so.
client.
Yeah, there's been quite a few agents in the past who are just so rude, who don't even reply, you know. So I can understand it's hard for people.
Anyone in particular that you wouldn't want to work with?
Yeah, I mean, the
Go
funny
on.
thing, the funny thing is that since agents and bands do move around, we have been able to book these acts with other people who have put on a great show and have been really happy. And it's just like, well, if you'd have replied to us, we would have put that band on. So.
Yeah.
But mentioning name as well.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to put you on that
I
spot.
suppose that when some people are managing Coldplay, they don't really give a shit about the kind of bands we're booking. If that's the case, why have them on your roster? You know, if you don't want to book them, then they represent them.
So, I can tell you, I was fortunate enough to do Coldplay at London, Wembley.
Yeah.
We as a company supplied London, Wembley Stadium, and we did Coldplay. I'm going to say 6 nights. I was there when Stormzy came on and sung, and one thing he is definitely not is a singer. He's a great rapper, but he's definitely not a singer. One of the best visual display shows, and I've got to be honest, Coldplay for me nailed Wembley. One of the best shows. I mean, Ed Sheeran was incredible. Pink for me was probably the best show I've ever seen in Wembley. I've got to be honest. There were a lot of shows I missed at Wembley, even though our guys were there. I personally couldn't get there because I was with these other festivals and bits and pieces. So I've been fortunate enough to see some of these huge acts and some of that cost millions of pounds. These guys are millions of pounds. Dua Lipa, she was another one when she played at the Capitol Ball. So I'm fortunate enough to see it, but I'm not the one that's writing the checks, trying to hire these guys for the day. And I don't envy that position where you're looking at, you know, you're shelling out 99% of your ticket sales on whatever it takes. And there's so many things that you've said that we don't actually recognise as costs, traffic management, toilets, toilet rolls.
PPL, PRS, I mean, God, there's a dream for you.
Who's that, sorry?
The royalties and
Performing Rights Society, you know, charges tens of thousands of pounds for putting on an event which promotes new music and encourages you know, bands to come up through the ranks.
Yeah, see, I don't claim to know all that. I've been in the industry 35 years. I've run Security Nation. I've created the Nation Group. Hence, we're here talking about it now. And, you know, the festivals that we do and the security I can do, no problem. I know the costs. I know the hidden costs. I know what's going to happen at the end. And I look at promoters and we genuinely try to deliver the event how the promoter visualises it going. So for me, I like to understand everything in that respect. The cost is not my business. The cost is really down to you guys. But it is something that is frightening when you look at just how many things you have to pay. I mean, for me, I get paid from you, and then I have to pay all of my guys, and my biggest gripe is I have to pay all the other stuff and everything else. And I will say, and this is absolutely true, there are times where we as a security company have lost money.
Yeah.
100% we have lost money. I did an event in Jersey this year, and funnily enough, they were very proud to say they've never paid a bill in 100 years. They've never not paid a bill, apparently. Well, they still haven't paid me, and it's been 6 months. So, Jersey. Yeah, you're not all millionaires, are you?
I think people don't understand how many budget lines events have.
Yeah, I've got to be honest.
Hundreds.
Until I spoke to you guys and sit there and go, shit, you pay for that, you pay for this, and the whole point of this podcast is for people that look at events and festivals and go, why are they falling by the wayside? Well, now you know they're falling by the wayside because of the cost of things have just gone rocketing through the roof, and it's not because we're being greedy. That's just the government enforces an extra cost on us. Our minimum wage, my guys are not paid minimum wage, but minimum wage has gone up.
Yeah.
Which means everyone's price has gone up. My guys pay whatever the national insurance is set by the government, and now they've decided to push that up. So that extra £70,000 a year that I have to find, it might not sound like a lot, £70,000, but it fucking is.
It is, but then also, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get political, but how else do we fix our country? Because there is that other problem.
Yeah.
You know, we have got problems in our country and they need fixing and they are expensive. So the money's got to come from somewhere.
I'm pretty certain Keir Starmer's not the man to fix it. That
Well,
much I can tell you.
Time will tell.
But
proof is in the
again,
pudding.
I'm no politician, so, you know, again, I'm not trying to get into the politics of it. But what I will say is this, for all of the people that have listened and, you know, if you want to throw £1 million at an event and think you're going to double it, well, you're off your fucking conker, if that's what you think. And we've heard some real issues, real life issues today about running events and festivals and different types of events. We haven't even spoke, but I cover motocross events, and the time when we've just had the world biggest nations motocross event, which is the biggest sort of motocross event of the year. It's the ultimate pinnacle. Excuse me. And yet, if they just about broke even, they've done well.
Oh, I worked the last motocross of nations at
Matley Basin, that's correct, Jim.
Matley Basin.
Yeah,
Matley
that's it.
Basin. And I do believe they lost hundreds of thousands of pounds because they expected 40,000 people to turn up, and it was 20, and weather was horrendous.
I was there, and I can 2017 that was.
Yeah.
I was there, and
Well,
I can
that
tell
happened at
you
Goodwood as well.
categorically, that company went under owing me. I can say this because I can say it's a fact. They owe me £56,000.
Wow.
That was the security bill, and I will, make that clear. It was £56,000, and we never received a penny, and I had to swallow the cost of that. Yeah,
That's
I'd
a
still
lot of money.
like it. If any of you are listening out there and you want to pay me in instalments, you can. But it was a big. But I will say, it was the worst weather, horrific. The bar didn't take anything. The fairground didn't take anything, and the event that was expected, like you say, 40,000, I think got 18,000 in. And when you're that short, so things happen. We're in the industry, and this is certain things. But certainly, we're going to sort of start to wind this up now. But hopefully, for you guys that have sort of seen and listened and found it interesting, if you want to write in and let me know what you think. But if you want to do events, balls to the walls, and it's not an easy
Pretty
thing.
thick-skinned now, I think.
And I think you have to be pretty thick-skinned, like a rhino, to do it. We're going to finish off.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's definitely not. We're going to finish off with a summary of what we think. Now, I'll start. And I think that if the events nail it and they can get it right, and they don't all try to do the same on the same events, on the same weekends, because certainly events clash and you're not helping each other when you do that, especially if you're within sort of 2 hours of each other. It doesn't help to run. So I think the industry could do or could benefit with communicating a bit more. My opinion is I think that the council, the governments, the people that are leasing the sites should try to help a little bit and not be blinkered by the fact that you just want your high rent for the park or the site or the pitch that you're renting, because look at the bigger picture of what it brings into the local economy. And I think that should be taken into account before you set your price extortionately high for these promoters. Libby, tell me what you think.
Of?
What we're going forward for this year. What do you think?
I think 2025 is going to be a good year for events. Certainly for our event, I feel very positive.
Yeah, good. Like that.
Yeah, I do.
And Ben, tell me what you think.
Well, year's going well so far. You know, again, what Marcel said a minute ago about you know, government and councils. We're not expecting a handout, but just to reduce the hurdles really in terms
Yeah.
of putting on good events or
I mean, having awareness of what it
Yeah.
takes. to
Ease
put
the
on an
pain
event
a little bit.
Would be
Help.
is good. Yeah, I think so.
I think the thing is I think they can help you. I think if somebody was to actually sit there and go, listen, instead of charging you 50 grand for your park,
Well,
they're struggling. Let's give it to them for 30.
I think in the cities you're talking those figures. A lot of what the local councils where we are charge isn't extortionate. It's mainly to sort of cover their time and also for a bit of rent for the thing. What you know, I think what we're looking for more is to sort of break down some of the red tape. You know, we've been doing this for over a decade now, and so you would have thought that you know, not having free reign, but you know, actively encouraging or you know, not talking about myself here, I'm talking about people in general as well, not just myself. Sorry, that you know, encouraging events generally is a great way of boosting the economy.
Something we've missed, I suppose, we should have brought in was the more events that are able to go on, the more we can promote local talent and emerging talent, should we say,
Yeah.
and open the door for people to play, for people to come and demonstrate their gifts, their talents, and what they're good at, and be able to say, look, whether it be a music festival, whether it be you're the best bike rider, best BMX skateboarder, whatever it is. I work with Monster, and I love working with Monster. I love what they live for. I love the attitude. I love the whole attitude of Monster, and the adrenaline buzz that comes with their events. But if they don't hold those events, people don't get the chance to showcase what they can do. And I think that events, smaller events, local events as well, can showcase and give people opportunity.
I'd like to see the government reduce the VAT for hospitality, because I think not just for events but hospitality in general has had a massive negative impact.
They were
on
talking
the
about
industry.
5% for a while.
Yeah.
It's never got anywhere. But
No.
that would encourage people.
Is that not happening?
No.
No, it was
I mean,
fun,
I think the industry has been like, you know, kind of championing that, but the answer has always been no.
I think-
But I think it would be.
I think
helpful.
Melvin Ben came out and said it should. I think he championed that as well. And whilst, you know, I've done some jobs for Melvin, I don't know him personally, never met him myself, but I know that he was pushing that very hard to try and get that through government as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully
You
that'll
never know.
happen. But right, we're going to start to wrap things up. Hopefully you guys have listened to this and found it very interesting. Please let me know what you think, and hopefully I will see you soon, and welcome back to the Nation Group Talks, and hopefully you'll find this one of great interest. See you guys later. Thank you very much. Ben,
Thank you, Marcel.
been brilliant. Thank you,
Thank
Libby.
you.
Appreciate that. And let me know what you think, guys. Thank you very much, even though I have a cold.